Uncensored, no holds barred talk. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is the Global Reality Radio Network.
Live edition of the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thanks for being with us here tonight. Monday night, Moonbat metal edition of the broadcast. Thanks for being here with us. Monday, April 16th, 2012, into Tuesday, April 17th, 2012. And yes, indeed, we are live here with you tonight on the broadcast, beaming out across the galaxy at theglobalreality.com. That's theglobalreality.com. Then that is where you find everything pertaining to my work, from the documentary films to the archives of this show, video clips of past shows and stuff that have been made that our listeners out there have made, put up on YouTube. All my documentary films, all my mini films, audiobooks taken from readings I've done here on the show as well. The chat room where you can interact with other listeners. And the Buy SR2 temp there, where you can buy Secret Rite Volume 2 on DVD and Blu-ray up there at the site as well. If you'd like to send an email, I'd love to have them. I got that backwards as I was trying to say that. If you would like to send an email, I'd love to have them. Anytime, globalrealityshow@gmail.com. That's globalrealityshow@gmail.com. So definitely send those there if you want to send those in tonight. If you have questions, comments, you have anything you want to hear me talk about or discuss, get my take on, globalrealityshow@gmail.com. You can always find that email address. Also, for later reference, up there under the contact tab at the aforementioned website, theglobalreality.com. Hope everybody's doing good here tonight. We're going to be getting into some news. We actually don't have nearly as much news as we would have normally on Mondays, but we'll cover all the stuff we do have to cover tonight. It was kind of that way last week too. On Friday night, especially, I had every intention of doing a show Friday night. It was one of those weird, crazy nights where, I was ready to do a show, I had music playing on the stream and stuff, and then there was not any. And the only thing I would have done, which I just, for the most part, except for certain very important pieces of information, I don't really like to have to repeat myself, and I don't like having to say the same thing twice very much. And that's what I would have been doing Friday night. I would have been getting up here and tell you the same shit I told you, the previous 3 nights or whatever. So in lieu of that, we didn't have a show. But tonight was kind of another one of those nights, another more slow news cycle here. And this is generally the case around the times when we have elections, because everything is they want everybody's attention focused to that kind of stuff. But what I do find interesting is when you just kind of filter all that out and filter your news searches and the stuff you're looking at, and look at, what's going on with science and technology stuff. It's rather startling that there is such a wide spectrum difference going on in the perception of the world, depending if you're looking at it from the point of view of, technology or whatever else. Because, you can look at the economy and you can look at, society, wars, greed, corruption, pollution, on and on and on. You can look at all this stuff. And no matter what it is, it goes back to these people and their wider scoping agenda. And no matter what you look at on that front of it, technology and the way that things are now, breakthroughs are coming out in technology, it's astounding. It doesn't really make sense if you believe everything else they tell us about the state of the world right now. But it does indeed let you know where all of the resources and all the cash and everything is going to. And I've talked about this for quite some time on the show. It seems that they are really in a hurry and in some kind of necessity here to accelerate technology. It seems that they're on I don't know what. I mean, we can speculate all day and say it's Nibiru or it's pole shifts or it's alien invasion or earthquakes or asteroids, dinosaurs, whatever have you. But regardless of whether or not we know what it's for, it's been pretty clear for quite some time. It's becoming more and more clear that way now, if you're really looking, that there is an exponentiation going on in technology that seems to be strictly because of the amount of funding it's getting and how fast it is progressing. It seems to be that that they are needing technology to advance at a very fast rate so that they can have some kind of technology that they need to have on a certain time frame. That if they don't get, essentially, they're fucked. Their whole thing goes down the toilet. Now, again, we can speculate all day long about what that is and what it might be, and on and on and on, but let's not get caught up in speculating on what exactly that might be or what it is, and look at the facts and look at how many billions and trillions of dollars they're dumping into things like CERN, how much money they're dumping into nanotechnology, how much money they're dumping into space-based weapons, how much money they're dumping into life extension technologies, how much money they're dumping into building underground bases, how much money they're dumping into building next-generation propulsion systems, for interstellar space flight, as well as, the usual transhumanist advanced military technology they're working on, always wanting stuff where soldiers are merging with machines and the rest of this stuff. That is where all the funding is going to. And it seems like it's happening at a very exponentiated rate now, because for a period of time, well, I guess really since after World War II, and when we really started to see technology. I mean, think about that. We went for the end of World War II. We went from flying Panzers and these, Black Sheep Squadron airplanes to within 10 years or less than 10 years, 8 years, something like that they admit to. Probably had it before that. But still, anything less than 10 years, in less than 10 years or so, we went from flying, the Black Sheep Squadron, Corsair, one-engine planes in World War II to having the SR-71 Blackbird, which still has things about it that are to this day classified. I mean, really. They rolled that thing out in 50, I think they admit they had it in 56 or something like that, 57 maybe. But it's very clear when you really look at that, at the SR-71 Blackbird. You can go look that up. You can go to search engine, type SR-71 Blackbird. You can fact check me on that. I want to say it's 56, 57. They admit when they first had it, just going from memory. But as we know with anything, most of the time these technologies, they have them for years before they ever admit to having them. But even if that's not the case, still going in about a 10-year period from flying these little one-engine, dogfighters to having, I mean, that's quite a quantum jump in that small amount of time. But how come that advancement, for that advanced piece of aircraft, way, way ahead of its time technologically, how come that same technology didn't trickle down into real world everyday use? I mean, they had to have a sophisticated computer system alone just to be able to, because they took the vertical fin stabilizer off. It went with a two-blade system. Well, that alone is something you have to do. You can't just do that with hand-graphed aerodynamics and expect that it's going to work. You've got to have, computer models and stuff like that to make sure that the plane didn't just, the nose didn't just come way up and you fly and die, So if you look at when the SR-71 Blackbird was first being produced and first admitted to P-51 Mustangs, when you look at when those were first admitted to being produced, late 50s, that is to me, it's a very good yardstick for the idea of a technological arrested development that I think that they have been keeping us in since that time. And, say what you will about whether or not you believe the Roswell thing happened or whether it didn't or whatever have you, I don't know. But regardless of that, it is very interesting that coincidentally right around the time of that, what happened is when you saw the National Security Administration being set up, that's also when you started to see big advancements in military weaponry and in aircraft for the United States. So if it's not true, it's a big coincidence that those same things happened around that time, because again, the technology in the SR-71 Blackbird didn't find itself in home computing everyday life. Even though if they had the technology to do that in the 1950s, they would have had the technology to use that kind of stuff in everyday life like we use it now, but they didn't for a long, long time after that. And I think that's very clear when you look at it. You can really see this state of arrested development where they have felt for a long period of time that we are just too naive, because they've kept us in the dark about everything. That's why, to understand the depths of this stuff. So we're just going to keep people in this state of arrested development. And they keep us all thinking that, that things really are changing and we're advancing into the future and all this stuff. But when you really look at it, things really don't change all that much. They do change, but it's still this. No matter what you're talking about, it's still the kind of the same thing, even though it's just technologically more advanced than it was 10 years ago. Life is still kind of the same. And now they're pushing this technological technocalypse. They're pushing this at a faster, more exponentiated rate than they ever have. You have a computer down here that's still kicking that I bought in 2008. I hadn't even been doing the show 3 or 4 months at that time. And it was, when I got into the time, it was the first generation quad core. It was the first quad core computer they came out with in 2008, and I got a steal deal on it from Dell because they marked it wrong and all that stuff. And, I put 4 gigs of RAM in it and a badass video card. And it was just the bad boy on the block for the first year I had it. But it's been a solid computer. It hadn't let me down. It's still running. I use it for music stuff and read my news articles, all that stuff. But now, just 4 or 5 years later, in a small amount of time, now what's in a tower now, that's in your phone now. If you have an iPhone 4S or an iPad or something, that's in your phone now. My friend's got a Galaxy or something like that. Some kind of, I don't know much about cell phones because I don't fuck with them, but I don't own one. But he's got like a Samsung Galaxy or something. This fucking thing, is on par with my iPad. I'm just going, Jesus Christ! It's got a quad core in it, and 2 gigs of RAM or something like that. It's ridiculous. But, there's also stories that the CIA had iPhone-style communication devices back in the 1970s. Somebody in the chat room recently was saying that somebody had iPad-type things back in the 60s. None of that surprises me because, again, there is a lot of evidence that supports the idea that we have been kept in a state of technological arrested development, and that now, because of this, because they've got everybody acclimated to computers and everybody's got, a piece of technology on them now, and technology has become, very much an integrated part of our lives, even for people that live in rural areas now. It used to be just cities, but people who live out in the boonies now, have smartphones and iPads and everything, in high-speed internet connection. So the world's caught up now. And so since the world's caught up now and everything's more interconnected and they want more control, now they're starting to really, because over the past couple of years, ever since we hit like 2010, everybody's been saying, where's the flying cars? Where's the flying cars? How come we haven't seen flying cars yet? And all of a sudden, lately, over the past few months, I've read like 6 articles. I haven't read them here on air, but I've read them, reading and going gathering articles for the show about flying cars. I saw another one today. That there are multiple companies working on these flying cars, and not only just working on them. They're coming. There was an article I saw today where they said they're actually right now mapping the airspace for these things. So now that they've gotten everybody, they've kind of got everybody acclimated, they just like turning the boiling water up on the frog, slowly, so he never knows he's getting cooked. That's sort of what they've done to us with technology, and then they're just going to fucking spring all this shit on us, and the next thing you know, it's going to be coming down to a decision of whether or not you want to merge with machines and live forever, or whether or not you want to stay immortal and become ruled over by the technological feudalism. Anyway, thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to get into quite a few news stories here for you on the broadcast tonight. On my website, we have a Chivin banner there, and it's been kind of slow moving this month so far. We've got to pay the stream bill. It's actually due today. So go visit the website, theglobalreality.com, and use our Chivin banner there and help us out and help us meet our goal. So we can get the stream bills paid. We got to pay all the bills for the month coming up. So just help us out there if you can. I want to give a big shout out and thanks to one of our longtime listeners and supporters and chatters in the chat room. You might have seen him in the chat room before. He goes under the moniker of Pisces Dark Star in the chat room. He's been listening to the show and come to the chat room, I think at least 2008, 2009. It's been a while. He's been listening for a while. And he makes films and does stuff on his own. I think Reality Manufactured might be one of his websites or one of his movies. I can't remember. But hopefully he'll get me what name he wants in there. But he actually, I've been for some time asking people to do this kind of thing for my films and to be trying to be a part of this, and really haven't had any takers. But he just happens to be in the area of Ohio, or just near where the servant mounds are, I guess, or lived within driving distance, I suppose. Not near it, I don't think, but driving distance. But and he went to the serpent mound there in Ohio and got footage for us. And I was laughing because he was like, here's some that's okay quality, here's some that's better quality. And I was like, it doesn't look too bad. I wonder what kind of camera he's using. And I look and I saw a reflection in this shot where he's taking a picture of a sign. And by the way, you know what the number one rule is for the serpent mounds in Ohio? You know what's number one on there? Do not bring any alcoholic beverages or hallucinogens. The number one rule, he got footage of it. It'll be in my film. I just find that odd because for it to be the number one rule, that means that it apparently was a problem. That motherfucker must have so much goddamn energy to it that if you go out there and trip balls, you go up into the goddamn, flaming fucking Jacob's ladder with Quetzalcoatl or something. Jesus. And yes, Jesus is probably there too. My God, is it that? He said it was pretty crazy energy. Is it that fucking off the chain? Because I was actually pretty grateful that I wasn't, I was thinking, God damn. I mean, nothing against you people from Ohio. There were some great listeners out there from Ohio. Nothing against Ohio. But Alabama was kind of more my speed, so I didn't mind going there. Don't mind going back there. Actually, there's some things I need to go over there and shoot again. But, oh, man, I'm really just kind of glad I didn't have to take a road trip to Ohio. But you never know. I may have to eventually. I mean, they found more Ohio and Pennsylvania is where they found the most skeletons of giants. Ohio, they found one tomb there, it was just chock full of giants. I think there's 12 in one thing. So there might be other locations there in Ohio where maybe some of these giants were found or something. I'll let you know, Pisces. Maybe you can go check that out too as well. But I think he shot all this stuff on like an iPhone 4S. That's what it looked like in the reflection. Man, I could be wrong about that, but it looks pretty damn good for being shot on a phone. I mean, I got to say, give it a couple of more years, and yeah, we'll be doing full blown documentaries on our iPhones. I mean, it's insane. But I pulled it up in my editor last night and got it, stretched to full screen and got it all cut down and edited. It looks pretty good. And he did a full walkthrough of the Serpent Mound there in Ohio and got all the angles and got all the pictures of the signs of the alignments, because it's all aligned to, the equinoxes and solstices and all that stuff. So they've got signs there marking the alignments. And he actually went around to all of them and got video of all the alignments and walked the whole perimeter of the thing and got it on video. And I just want to thank him from the bottom of my heart for doing that. And that's amazing. That's when I've been, because he's a part of that now. He's a part of this now. It's great. I mean, I just love the fact that for this project, there's been so many people that, more than any other project I've ever done, there's been so many people that wanted to volunteer to do anything for this film. And that's why it continues to prove itself to me that it's absolutely what I'm supposed to be doing, because I've got this is going to blow you away too. I didn't really think I'd be this far along in the filmmaking process, because I haven't really been stressing or doing the hardcore. It's just different. It's all the experience of making a film is different every time. This one's already different because it just feels like there's, even though I have a deadline and I have a goal set, which, by the way, I haven't told you guys this yet, but I am planning on having this film out by July 4th. July 4th this year. And this part of the film is not going to encompass any digging or rock wall digging or anything like that. This is strictly going to be my thesis and my point of why looking into this rock wall and getting a dig done on this rock wall and getting more attention drawn on it is an important thing. And I've already got like 30 minutes of the film done. I don't have the voiceovers or the music thrown in there yet, but I mean, it's not going to take much. So I've already got basically 30 minutes of it done. And so I'm looking to have it out by July 4th, if not sooner. I don't know if I'm going to, I may be done doing the physical format thing of discs now. I probably should have done that with Cigarette Volume 2 in retrospect now, but I thought we probably had at least one more go round. I was kind of wrong. Everything's kind of, this year has been the lowest year for physical media sales ever. 2000, but subsequently, I've actually sold more copies of the Secret Volume 2 than I have of any of my other films up to this point. So that's awesome. But I think instead of putting those resources towards physical hard copy discs, DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff like that anymore, maybe I'll feasibly. Here's what I want to do. Ideally, I want to go to a small, short amount of DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff. Small. When I say small, I mean very small, limited to very limited copies. When they're gone type thing. And get because for like $800, you can get one of these towers that'll burn them yourself. So I was thinking about going to just, instead of putting all the resources to buying the disc and having them manufactured, going just to putting that money towards the iTunes Netflix thing and getting the films directly onto those platforms for sale and download and rental and all that instantly, instead of, and then offer the hard discs and stuff for people who absolutely can't use that format or whatever have you, for whatever reason. But yeah, I'm just really stoked about this film. Probably more excited about this film than I've ever been about any other film I've ever worked on, because for the first time, and this is consisting what I've got right now, 30 minutes of the film or whatever done. This is all original footage, and it's really my first outing with that camera, and I had to use my backup on it, but it was seamless between them. But it just looks amazing. It's so beautiful and crisp and HD. I mean, there's not a line or anything in it. It looks really good, and I'm just really excited to have a film that's going to be, like a real documentary, not just a bunch of news clips and all that stuff. But I think that anybody who gets done watching this film when it's done, who isn't at least interested and doesn't think that it is a major warranting of an investigation, a further investigation into the rock wall, they're just going to be out of their mind. So that's what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to get this done by the beginning of the summer and use the summer to try and find investors and people who want to put up some money to get the dig done, and then we're going to shoot to get the dig done in the fall. So those of you who have been asking for a timeline, those of you who have wanted to volunteer for this, other people who I've made arrangements with, and whatnot, you ask for a time frame, there it is. So I'm gonna work on the film to get the preliminary first. So what I'm gonna do is, this will be part one of the film, and then once we do the dig, and the dig is achieved, we'll shoot the entire thing of the dig, and then that will become its own film in and of itself, which will be part two to this film that I'll be putting out by July 4th. So then we'll use the summer to promote and trying to find investors and people who want to come in to fund the dig and schedule the dig for the fall. That's my plan. That's my goal. And that's what I'm going to stick to. So, and right now, because of the help that we got from a couple of our listeners out there, you know who you are, last month to make the road trip happen to go shoot. I didn't really realize it when the trip was over. I didn't really realize it until this weekend after I got all the footage ripped from the cameras and got it all cut down and edited. It really didn't even hit home to me until I did that. And I was like, wow, I'm actually like on schedule, ahead of schedule, on track. I mean, it's all gone well. I just can't attribute that to anything but you guys out there. Even though we haven't met a lot of the goals that we have had set all the time, we still have gotten some support, and that what we did get on top of selling some DVDs and stuff has helped us out. So I just want to thank everybody out there. I hope you'll continue to support this film and my work on it, because I mean it's just proof positive. I think right now that I'm just blown away that I'm actually this far ahead of my goal that I have set to get this done and to get this information out there. Because we had talked about when our listener Scott last year had sent us some emails, suggestions about making the films and stuff. We read them here on air and whatnot. But that was one of the things that he had talked about, making films at a quick, successive pace. And I think that the hours that I spent, because I jumped on making C-Write 2 on new software on a brand new computer I'd never used, and jumped right to it. And because I had gotten so good at using my inferior editing software on my PC, that when I jumped over to a really good Mac with Final Cut Pro, it was like boom, 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 boom. No learning curve. Everything I already knew how to do was enhanced. My tools are enhanced. I'm able to do more. And it's just, it's really, when you have the appropriate gear, that's why I bitched and pissed and moaned about not having the right gear for so long. And luckily we got help and we're able to get the right gear, and it just makes all the difference in the world. If you can want to do all the work in the world, but none of your work is going to get done if you don't have the proper tools to do it. And that's kind of one of the it's been one of the struggles for this, but it's been nice since we've had some better gear to do this stuff on. The films, the quality of what I'm doing now just keeps continuing to go up. And I keep finding, that's what I love about doing this, is that as soon as you get into one topic and you start researching that topic intently, ultimately by the pure nature of the beast, the pure nature of doing research, what your next film is going to be presents itself to you pretty quickly. That's how you find the next thing you're researching, is by researching the thing you're currently working on. It's always been that way for me. And I don't know whether it's been a result of just sheer hard work and determination and staying on it, or whether it's been, some kind of synchronistic destiny, fate thing. Probably a little bit of both. But I can say this. I know that if you dedicate yourself to something like this, especially when you're working on a particular topic and you have a goal like this with a film, when you dedicate yourself to it, it's like things, especially if you're doing it for the right reasons, things just make themselves apparent to you. I recently discovered over the weekend that there's actually a mound site that I've got to go check out, because it's very pertinent to the rock wall stuff, because it's a Caddo Indian site. And they have artifacts there of bronze that they have traced back to a place in Michigan where this bronze came from. And they found that same bronze at Moundville in Alabama. And in Moundville, they had a massive, sophisticated trading system where they would trade shells that came from the Gulf with, for copper and all this stuff that came from areas of Michigan and stuff. Well, they found this at these Caddo Indian mounds. I kid you not, 10 miles from where my grandparents live in East Texas, where my dad's buried, where a lot of my family lives. And I've been by there 1,000,000 times in my life, folks, 1,000,000 times. And I've never known they have a massive site there. And it's interesting because the Caddo Indians also inhabited the area around where the rock wall is. And they came and inhabited it well after whoever originally built it had inhabited it. But that's another interesting thing, because that's what I'm showing here, is that all of these, from South America to Mexico to the United States, you had these cultures with advanced astrological and scientific data that they got from someone or something, and they all worship this plumed serpent. America was not named after Amerigo Vespucci, that bullshit they told us in school. It was named Amaruca long before there were, people from there coming over here. The land of the plumed serpent, the feathered serpent. And I had no idea that, going to these mound sites and stuff, that I was going to be shown that and have that proven to me even more by the things that I saw. But that's what you'll see in the footage I shot on this trip, and that with the Quetzalcoatl stuff they found pertaining to the rock wall and stuff. But that's my whole thing here, is that we got to get to the bottom of why they want this buried. And why there have been so many cover-ups. Why has the Smithsonian hidden and withheld artifacts? Thousands and thousands of artifacts were said to have been excavated by the Smithsonian from Moundville, Alabama, where I went a couple of weeks ago. How come there's only a few scant artifacts in this little pathetic museum they have there? You would think that if there's thousands of artifacts excavated, that you would go there and get to see those thousands of artifacts. But no, you don't. They're locked up and kept away, and we don't get to see those. And there's no question that the reason this is because whatever they are hiding from us has to do with being able to keep us right where they want us. And if they can't keep us right where they want us, and we get access to information they've been withholding from us, and we get it by our own fucking blood, sweat, and tears, and research and digging, then it's going to be a big problem for them. So anyway, thanks to Pisces, Dark Star there for his footage. I'm excited about this film, and thanks to everybody out there. I hope you'll help us continue to fund this film. We have one more fundraiser up for it. Runs till the end of May, and that'll be our last fundraiser for the film. Yeah, and just to see it on the screen and to see, that much of the film already coming to life, and to think what I'm going to be putting into it next. I'm really, really super excited to be making a film like this finally. Not that I haven't enjoyed and liked making the other films, but the other films seemed like a real stressful, really stressed to the point of, bad on your body stress. Literally. Secret Volume 2, both for me. This seems a lot more, it just seems, I don't know, I just don't feel as stressed out about this. And I don't know, things seem to be a lot easier to deal with when it's that way. So I hope it continues to be that way for this film. Let's see what we have here in the news tonight. Boy, talk about a case of not knowing your shit. You would think that anybody this just goes to show you how clueless that anybody has anything to do with the Olympics are. Ever since Beijing put out one of the most spectacular coordinated displays in human history at the 2008 Olympic Grand Opening Ceremony, observers have wondered how London could possibly improve on it. This would be a start. Organizers for the 2012 ceremony recently asked the manager of The Who if legendary drummer Keith Moon would be able to perform at the London Games. It was a fine idea, except that Moon has been dead for 34 years. Bill Kerbishley told The Times how he responded to the request. I emailed back saying Keith now resides in Golden Green Crematorium, having lived up to The Who's anthemic line, I hope I die before I get old. If they have a round table, some glasses, and candles, we might contact him. So they had no. Oh yes, well we'd like to have Keith Moon come and play. Yes, maybe get Freddie Mercury there while you're at it. Yes. I mean, how out of touch are they? They don't even know who's dead and who's not. Maybe Princess Diana will show up. I mean, Jesus Christ! Just get Keith Moon. He's a snappy young lad and a good drummer. Get him. Sir, he's been dead for 34 years. Well, Jesus, get that Ringo then. Well, he's a good replacement. Oh, man, that is fucking funny. Who didn't know Keith Moon was dead? Really? Hell, just call the States and tell them to give us that Elvis then. You'll have him if we can't have Keith Moon. Fucking Brits. Oh, this is rich. Next time you don't like, this sets a precedent for me. I mean, really. This is a case that we have to monitor just for the fact that it does set a precedent. Now, if you ever have a problem with your landlord, you ever have a problem with where you're living from now on out, just tell them motherfuckers it's haunted and it'll be all good. A New Jersey couple is suing their landlord for a refund after they paid, after they said paranormal activity caused them to flee their rental home. Look, just because you rented a shitty movie doesn't mean you get to claim that your house is haunted. It said it right there, right? A New Jersey couple is suing their landlord for a refund after they said paranormal activity caused them to flee their rental home. They didn't specify whether it was Paranormal Activity 1 or Paranormal Activity 2, the sequel, but, again, just because you rent a shitty... Oh, wait, they really did get haunted here. Okay. I thought these guys were blaming this... This movie sucked. I want a refund. I want my landlord to not make me pay rent because I rented a shitty movie. Ripper ding day. Michelle Callan and her fiance, Jose Chinchala. Really, that's really his name. Chinchala. Moved into the home in Toms River, New Jersey with Callan's two children on March 1st and were immediately spooked. Well, quit watching those shitty ass goddamn horror movies they've made 100 of ever since fucking Blair Witch Project came out. 3 taps on the TV, taps on the shoulder. At first, they chalked it up to the adjustment period of moving into a new home, but things only got spookier. Doors open and closed. The family even claimed they recorded strange voices whispering, "Let it burn." I'm not going to lie to you. I've moved in places before, and there's, residual spirits and energies of people who've lived in the house before and have an attachment to it. The biggest thing is when you have something like that, if you just acknowledge them, they'll leave you the fuck alone. That's all you got to do. We stayed in this hotel when we were in Birmingham that they said was just haunted as shit. And there was this guy who lived there back when it was apartments before they made it into a hotel. And he was the colonel something. And so he was known to come knock on your door at night. He'd knock, repeatedly, and you'd go to the door and he wouldn't be there. But just like, any of these ghosts or apparitions, whatever they are, if you acknowledge them, that's all they want is to be acknowledged. They spend the majority of their existence, which is like a purgatory-like existence. We've talked about that a bit in some of our reading we've done recently in our current book that we're reading here on the show. But, and so all they really want is to be acknowledged, to feel like they're still part of the real world in some way, to have that attachment. And, when we went in this hotel, they just said, acknowledge the colonel. So we got in there. We're like, all right, Colonel, how's it going, bud? Thanks for letting us chill at your place for the night. We're going to watch some TV and crash out and, we'll be out of here. And of course we didn't get the knock. We didn't get haunted. Somebody shoved a bill under our door at, 3:00 in the morning. But other than that was the only odd thing that kind of happened. But I mean, you especially with rental homes and stuff, man. You don't know what happened in the house before you went in there. You don't know if somebody killed themselves in there. You don't know if somebody died in there of natural causes, or somebody died there that built that house and had a very big attachment to it. But the problem is that people have been so conditioned to believe that there is no such thing as spirits and ghosts and that kind of, it's just energy is really all it is. But everybody's been programmed and they've been bullshitted by, Hollywood and in the movies and all this stuff, that when they actually come in contact with spiritual energy, they just flip the fuck out. You ever thought about that? Maybe it's not, the problem isn't with the ghost or the apparition or whatever it is. The problem is with you. I had a ghost fucking with me one time when I was in high school. It would, my truck would be locked, and it was back in the day of cassettes, and I'd have all my cassettes in the front, all arranged nice, and I would have my radio on a rock station. And every day when I would come out of school, even when my truck was locked up tighter than a drum, and no way anybody could get in it, I'd come outside and I would start at my truck, and my tapes would be strewn everywhere all over my inside of my truck, and my radio would be on a country station. And this happened every day for well over a year. And it was like a 74 Ford pickup or something, There's no telling who had owned it before, Obviously, they were a country fan. When I was 16 and young, dumb, full of cum, and running around trying to get some pussy, I wasn't listening to country. I was listening to some rock. But yeah, just talk to your ghosts, talk to your apparitions, tell them it's cool, tell them you're not trying to fuck up their shit, tell them you ain't trying to, own their house, but that they need to leave you the fuck alone, because you got to live there now, and they got to do their thing, and if you do that, they'll leave you alone. True story. As ice cap melts, militaries vie for Arctic edge. Now, this is interesting because it makes you wonder now, all this geoengineering and phony global warming has been to melt the polar ice caps in order to be able to get access to the vast amounts of resources there is there. I think that's a big part of it. I think it has been from the very beginning. But isn't that like the plot of some James Bond movie or something? It sounds like it, doesn't it? Melting the polar ice caps in order to get oil or something like that. But that's indeed what's going on. I mean, that's one of the big issues going on right now. And I just can't help but think that, because here's all this talk about climate change and here's all this talk about global warming and this and that. But yet, as bad as they say it all is, everybody can't wait to capitalize on it so they can get up there and just conveniently get access to all this oil and resources there at the ice caps. You can't tell me this is a coincidence. So the world's military leaders, the debate over climate change is long over. They are preparing for a new kind of Cold War in the Arctic, anticipating that rising temperatures there will open up a treasure trove of resources long dreamed of, sea lanes, and a slew of potential conflicts. By Arctic standards, the region is already buzzing with military activity, and experts believe that will increase significantly in the years ahead. Last month, Norway wrapped up one of the largest Arctic maneuvers ever, exercised Cold Response, with 16,300 troops from 14 countries training on the ice for everything from high-intensity warfare to terror threats. Now, why would you have to train at the ice caps for terror threats? That's an interesting idea, isn't it? Attesting to the harsh conditions, 5 Norwegian troops were killed when their C-130 Hercules aircraft crashed near the summit of the Kebnekaise, Sweden's highest mountain. The U.S., Canada, and Denmark held major exercises 2 months ago, and in an unprecedented move, the military chiefs of the 8 main Arctic powers, Canada, the U.S., Russia, Iceland, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and Finland, gathered at a Canadian military base last week to specifically discuss regional security issues. None of this means a shooting war is likely at the North Pole anytime soon, but as the number of workers and ships increases in the high north to exploit oil and gas reserves, so will the need for policing, border patrols, and if push comes to shove, military muscle to enforce rival claims or to find the giant buried UFO there and back engineer it before anybody else does. None of this means a shooting war is likely. I already read that. The U.S. Geological Survey estimates that 13% of the world's undiscovered oil and 30% of its untapped natural gas is in the Arctic. So let me get this straight. We got to have carbon taxes and we got to have all this greeny-meeny bullshit because man-made global warming is melting the ice caps and killing the polar bears. But we want to get up there and start fracking for natural gas. We want to get up there and start exploiting the oil reserves. And we're training people at the ice caps for a possible terrorist attack. You can't tell me this is all just conveniently coincidence. Not only are they creating this idea of phony global warming, they're jumping all over it, the people's ignorance of it and their gullibility and their believability of it, and capitalizing on to expand their grab for natural resources. This is goddamn sickening. I'm sick and fucking tired of feeling like I'm screaming about this to nobody. This is something every motherfucker out there needs to pay attention to. What countries should do about climate change remains a heated political debate. Right. I'm sure it does. I'm sure it gets pretty heated when you have one side over here concocting it all while the other side says it's not real, but let's go and exploit the melting polar ice caps, which meanwhile we are doing because, by the way, Alcoa, the biggest aluminum producing company in the world, is very close to there. Alcoa, bet you didn't know this, produces more of the it's the number one most toxic greenhouse gas known to man. And they release it as a result of their aluminum making. And it's that's what causes the polar ice caps to melt. They've been doing this by design for a long period of time. So all this geoengineering and all this stuff we know now has been as a result to melt those ice caps so they can get up there and get access and have a bidding war going on over those resources. And as I've talked about many times, I read here on the show, I think 3 or 4 years ago, the stuff straight out of the Army War College about, coming wars will be resource wars. I think it's out, that show's still out there. Type Josh Reeves Resource Wars. You should find that show out there somewhere. I did this whole show about how they were, resource wars were going to be the coming wars, and that if civilian populations got in the way of those resource wars, that was, collateral damage and acceptable to them to actually murder civilians in their quest for resources. Look for it to get hot, I say, in about 2 days from now. Probably going to see more tornadoes, more crazy weather. Spectacular solar flare erupt from the sun. It usually takes about 2 days for it to get us. We're going to get some hot weather, I'm sure, from this. The sun erupted into an amazing solar flare display today, unleashing an intense eruption of superheated plasma that anchored and arced high above the star's surface before blasting out into space. The powerful solar flare occurred at 1:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and registered as a moderate N17 class on the scale of sunstorms, placing it firmly in the middle of the scale used by scientists to measure the flare's strength. The storm is not the strongest this year from the sun, but photos and video of the solar flare captured by NASA spacecraft revealed it to be an eye-popping display of magnetic plasma. Great eruption happening on the sun now, scientists with NASA Solar Dynamics Observatory wrote. And yes, again, the sun. Oh, it's going to be interesting to see what that old sun does this year, isn't it? That's one of my biggest things I'm looking forward to this year. See what kind of show that thing puts on for us. You guys hear about this? Tupac is back. Yes, back from the dead, and if he ever died in the first place. But I've covered this many times on the show, many appearances. I've talked about how there's this Japanese pop star that's been out for a few years now, and somebody sings the songs, and she has a band, but it's a hologram. And the hologram has albums and has merchandise, and the hologram has live concerts with a live band. This band plays actual music, and they have vocals piped in, and they have this goddamn hologram up there on stage. And I as soon as I saw that a few years ago, I said, that's the future of music right there. That's how bands like the Rolling Stones and Rush are going to, and other bands like that are going to, never stop playing, never stop going on the road. Because, well, for instance, with this Tupac, when they did it at Coachella over the weekend, they actually made him sing the song Hail Mary, which I believe was on his Don Kill Illuminati record, which is, to me, is his finest work. He never sang that song live. He died before he ever had a chance to sing that song live. But yet the hologram performed the song Hail Mary live at Coachella with Tupac singing it's just insane. It looks 100% believable. And they even say right here in this article exactly what I've been saying for years. With its under $1 million price tag, Smith described the process as being affordable since it does away with the cost of transporting artists and the ability to put artists in every venue in the country. While this may seem strange and almost disrespectful to bring somebody back from the dead in such a way, Shakur's mother, Afeni Shakur, was positively thrilled. So they're saying this is the future. And what a better way to do it? I mean, as I've talked about before. Sign these poor saps into shitty contracts and shitty deals where you control everything they do. And you milk them dry till they're washed up and they've got nothing left. And when their albums don't really sell like they used to, and they're kind of dwindling down the end of their career, well, you find whatever vice they were into, if it was heroin, if it was women, if it was drinks, whatever it may be, pills. You off them, make it look natural, make it look like an accident, whatever, and then boom, rake in those royalties, rake in that millions off of their the media campaigns. Oh, how great they were, and because you're never great until you die in our culture. You understand that? No matter how good somebody like Bill Hicks. I mean, I love Bill Hicks, but nobody liked Bill Hicks when he was alive. I remember seeing him on HBO and stuff. Nobody liked Bill Hicks. Very few people even know who he was or even liked him and what he did when he was alive. But you'll talk to a billion people who know who Bill Hicks is now because of the internet and everything. But, when he was alive, nobody really gave a shit about him or what he had to say. But as soon as he died, he was a poet. And so, when these people control this kind of game like this, it's sick, man. And don't think for a second they don't do it and haven't done it a million times. An artist is a commodity to a record label, nothing more. That commodity either makes the company money or it loses the company money. But you got to understand, they don't look at an artist that loses them money as a commodity, and they don't look at an artist that loses them money as an option. I think this kind of stuff's just sick, to be honest with you. I'm never going to go see a hologram live. If my favorite bands, the day my favorite bands get too old to go out on the stage again and can't play anymore, they die, I'm fine with it. You know what I mean? I've been lucky enough to get to see, I would say pretty close, probably within about a 1% percentile. I've been pretty damn lucky. I've gotten to see just about every single band or artist I've ever wanted to see that I had the possibility of seeing, not counting bands, that I couldn't have, obviously wasn't, was either too young or not born yet to see. But of my time in my life, bands that's been possible for me to see, I've been pretty lucky. I've seen, pretty much everybody I'd ever want to see. I don't really need to see, I really go pay $300, 20 years from now to go see holograms of Rush, Look, they recorded all this stuff in holograms back in 2012. They've got like 50 more albums of this stuff. They'll be putting out albums long after you're dead, son. Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. Well, we're going to take a break, come back, and finish up with our news, maybe get into some reading of our new series of reading tonight as well. We have time. TheGlobalReality.com is my website. It's TheGlobalReality.com. Please hit our tipping banner there and support us so we can get the stream bill paid and get it all done. We'll take a break, come back, and get into more for you here tonight. All right, back here with you on the show. Global Reality Late Night Moonbat Edition for you here tonight on the broadcast. Thanks so much for being with us. I am your host, Josh Reeves. My website where this broadcast originates from is, of course, TheGlobalReality.com. That is TheGlobalReality.com. That's where you find everything pertaining to my work up there. Documentary films, everything. We also have the ways that you support our work and the way that you help us stay alive every month and get to make these films and all that. We have multiple ways that you can do that. We have our operating cost chip-in banner in blue there. We have to pay the stream bill. It's due today, so we're going to have some help with that. Film budget 2 is down there as well if you want to help out with the current film operating cost budget. And we have a one-time donation there. Any amount up to $10,000 per day you can put in the donate button. You can also use my direct PayPal email address, dayglow76@yahoo.com. You can send it directly there without any fees. dayglow76@yahoo.com. We also have the monthly subscription where you can have a drop-down banner there and has different amounts. You can select amount or put in your own amount, and it'll come out of your bank account monthly, so you don't have to come back and use the chip-in banners every month. You can cancel that at any time as well. And if you absolutely can't use the electronic versions that we prefer, We have a P.O. box down there as well at the very bottom below the donate via postal mail. Not done. We also have the below that it says Josh Reeves wish list, Amazon.com. We have gear and stuff there that we need for filmmaking process and things like that. So I thought in lieu of having shipping banners and fundraisers to buy the gear, why not have that gear up there on a wish list so people can go there and just buy that securely through Amazon, and it'll get sent directly to me, and you'll know exactly where your donation is going to and know exactly what you bought. So that's another way. And also, lastly but not leastly, we have at the top, we have a little thing there that says sponsors. One of our listeners, Aunt, I guess, has an affiliate program. And if you're somebody who doesn't get enough of what you need in your diet, it's definitely something to check out. Gina Marie's Juice Plus, it's a link up there. I had somebody earlier said something about, it says something about NSA. When I go, we checked that out. It doesn't have anything to do with NSA. It's just a routing thing for the website. It doesn't have anything to do with the NSA. I knew that as soon as I saw that, there's going to be a problem. I hope it doesn't affect your sales, but yes, we can tell you it has nothing to do with the National Security Agency. The National Security Agency has not got into the selling juice supplements and vitamin supplements yet that we know of. So there you go. It's just everybody, everybody's paranoid about everything when in this genre with good reason. That kind of stuff just doesn't help sometimes, Anyway, those are the ways that you support our work and keep us commercial free and uncensored into the future here, folks. So please help us out if you can. Let's finish up with our news tonight. Scientists to build a human brain supercomputer that will simulate the entire mind and will help fight against brain diseases. And this is the first step, again, towards the transhumanism, towards the merging with machines. The human's brain power could rival any machine, and now scientists are trying to build one using the world's most powerful supercomputer. It is intended to combine all the information so far uncovered about its mysterious workings and replicate them on screen right down to the level of individual cells and molecules. If it works, it could be revolutionary for understanding devastating neurological diseases such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, and even shedding light on how we think and make decisions, which again will give them more power and more control, which is why they do all this under the guise of medical advances. They don't give a damn about saving or curing anything. They only give a damn about saving and curing something so they can own and control and make money off of the cure. That's the only reason any money goes towards researching anything, folks, so that somebody somewhere can have more money and more control. Leading the project is Professor Henry Markram, based in Switzerland, who will be working with scientists from across Europe, including the Wellcome Trust Sanger Institute at Cambridge. They hope to complete it within 12 years. He said the complexity of the brain with its billions of interconnected neurons makes it hard for neuroscientists to truly understand how it works. Simulating will make it much easier, allowing them to manipulate and measure any aspect of the brain. You got to love that terminology, don't you? Comes right out and tells you what it is up front. Allowing them to manipulate and measure any aspect of the brain. Combine that technology with HARP, and you have yourself a pretty dangerous weapon, I would believe. Housed at a facility in Dusseldorf, Germany, the brain will feature thousands of three-dimensional images built around a semicircular cockpit so scientists can virtually fly around different areas and watch how they communicate with each other. And, this is for total control, folks. No question. The British businessman whose murder has sparked political upheaval in China was poisoned after he threatened to expose a plan by a Chinese leader's wife to move money abroad. I mean, this is some old school espionage shit going on right here. People don't believe that this stuff happens anymore. They believe that it's all in the movies, but it's funny how many things we believe that we see in movies that aren't true, and how many things we see in movies we think are fantasy are actually reality. It's just amazing the cognitive dissonance that they do with Hollywood. Because this is something straight out of a Hollywood movie. It was the first time a specific motive has been revealed for Neil Haywood's murder last November, a death which ended Chinese leader Bo Xilai's hopes of emerging as a top central leader and threw off balance the Communist Party's looming leadership succession. Bo's wife, Gu Kalali, asked Haywood late last year to move a large sum of money abroad, and she became outraged when he demanded a larger cut of the money than she expected due to the size of the transaction. She accused him of being greedy and hatched a plan to kill him after she said he could expose her dealings. One of the sources said, summarizing the police case, both sources have spoken to investigators in Chongqing, the southwestern Chinese city where Haywood was killed and where Bo had cast himself as a crime-fighting Communist Party leader. Gu is in police custody on suspicion of committing or arranging Haywood's murder, though no details of the motive of the crime itself have been publicly released, other than a general commitment from the Chinese state media that he was killed after a financial dispute. The sources have close ties to Chinese police and said they were given details of the investigation. So he was going to expose her because she didn't want to pay up. Just a general rule when it comes to dealing with scumbags and stuff, always pay the bag man. That's where everybody fucks up in those movies, isn't it? They always try to rip off the bag man. I mean, this is the guy who's handling your money. This is the guy who's handling your business. And you want to fuck him and shortchange him and not give him his cut? Give him his cut and you'll be done with him. No, you got to kill him just because you don't want to pay up. Doesn't it make more sense to just pay someone than it does to kill them and then wind up in some prison? I mean, that's why they had to. That's why they had to off Jack Ruby, and give him cancer. They injected him with cancer while he was in a Dallas jail cell because he was supposed to be, for eliminating Oswald, he was supposed to be taken care of and everything else, and he wasn't. And he started threatening to tell all. And by tell all, we're talking about, specific names of shooters on the Knoll, November 22nd, 1963. We're talking about specific names of people involved in Bay of Pigs. The whole deal. Because he had gotten fucked, because they didn't, he was the bag man, and again, they didn't want to pay the bag man. But in the end, of course, they had to inject him with something to get out of him, him telling all on them. But yeah, it's just unbelievable. Naked massages, kissing and rubbing, and exchanging locks of pubic hair. Boy, that sounds like shit. Bob, what'd you do this weekend? Oh, not much. Hang out with the wife and the kids, and I went to this yoga thing. Yeah. Oh, really? Yoga? Yeah, getting into that now, huh? Yeah. It's not too bad. Well, really? Well, what do you guys do at this yoga thing? Oh, usual stuff. Kissing. Really? Wow, yoga. Oh, that's kind of weird. Rubbing. Well, that's fucking really strange. We also exchange locks of our pubic hair. Wait. You what? You exchange locks of? You mean you cut off some of your pubes, and then they cut off some of their pubes? And then you exchange them like they're fucking baseball cards? Well, what the fuck? It was the lurid scandal that rocked the world of yoga to its core. But now new details have emerged of the Wiccan group sex parties. Goddamn Nazi lesbian hookers abducted by UFOs and forced into weight loss programs. Naked massages, kissing, public rubbing, exchanging locks of pubic hair, Wiccan sex parties that forced the Anusara yoga teachers to quit. Anusara yoga. I mean, that's just fucked up. I mean, I'm all about, becoming in tune with your body and the universe and the chakras, and I'm down with all of that. But we start getting into we start getting into we know each other well enough during our yoga exercises that we're exchanging pubic hairs like we're exchanging fucking phone numbers. I don't know, man. Maybe time to reconsider that maybe this is, I'd change the song, do you think Hank done it this way? I'd change it to you think Sting done it this way? I don't think Sting was swapping pubes with anybody to get that ripped body he's got. I don't know. Man, oh man, oh man. Weird stuff. Let's see what else we got here. Man launches online campaign after his dog was shot dead by a police officer who responded to call at the wrong address. I can't tell you how many times I've read about this, and it's just, it's fucked up because if you shoot a police dog, you get the same sentence as you do if you would have shot a cop person. But if they come to your house and shoot your dog for no reason, you don't get to shoot them back and kill them. Otherwise, they come to your house and shoot you dead if they come to your house and they shoot your dog for no reason. There's just something about that doesn't seem right in there. I mean, if they have the ability to put you away for the rest of your life, the same sentence as killing a person for killing a police dog, then that cop being executed for no rhyme or reason, the punishment should fit the crime in that case. Because I promise you this, if a cop ever came and shot my dog, I would shoot that cop, and I don't give a damn if they shot me and killed me. I would shoot that cop. I would make sure that cop was dead if they came and killed my dog. I don't give a fuck if it took the rest of my life. I would make sure that scumbag cop was fucking dead. A man who claims his dog was shot to death by a police officer responding to a call at the wrong address wants justice. Michael Paxton, 40, was playing Frisbee with his 7-year-old Australian cattle dog Cisco at his home in Austin, Texas, when a police officer suddenly appeared. Texas is such a fucking police state now. I mean, that's the one thing I got to say Alex Jones doesn't bullshit about. He's actually telling the truth about that. Texas, I don't know about everywhere else, but I mean, everywhere else I've been has been not as bad. Arkansas is kind of a police state, but Texas is the worst. That's the one thing I will say Jonesy does not exaggerate about. Texas is a fucking police state. He was playing Frisbee with his dog Cisco at his home in Austin, Texas, when a police officer suddenly appeared, drew his weapon, and ordered him to put his hands up. He had a taser. He had pepper spray. I don't understand why in broad daylight he pulled a gun on me. I wasn't running. I wasn't hiding. I was just saying, hey, I live here. I was panicking. I was afraid for my life. The officer was responding to a domestic abuse call of a man choking a woman and had unknowingly arrived at Paxton's home after the 911 caller gave the wrong address. So because some dumbass couldn't get the address right, this guy got his dog shot and got traumatized from this, and that's okay. The cop should be shot just like he shot that dog. This guy right here, Michael Paxton, I'm talking to you, Michael Paxton. I don't know if you ever hear this radio show. You probably never will. But Michael Paxton, you have my blessing to take a gun and senselessly blow the fucking pig cop away who killed your dog. It's equal justice. You know what? Not only that, not only should you have the right to shoot him, if his father is still alive, you should have the right to shoot him in the head right in front of his father and make his father watch. They made you watch your dog of what, 7 years, 7 years, die right in front of you. That's unbelievable. What can you do to repay? The only thing would be any sort of payment to be even close would be you personally getting to blow this cop's brains out right in front of his own dad. That would be the only thing that would make this right. While I was at gunpoint, my dog came from my backyard barking at the officer. Paxton wrote on his Facebook page dedicated to Cisco's cause. I yelled for the officer to not shoot my dog, that he will not bite. But the officer immediately shot and killed my dog right in front of me. So, yeah, man, that's just fucked. But, you know, I mean, that's the thing, folks. If the cops come to your door, I don't give a fuck if they're going to break your goddamn door down. Make sure you take your dog and put your dog in a room and lock it in a room where it cannot get out. And don't you dare let those fucking cops in your house unless they've got paperwork. Because you are putting your life, not only your own life, but the life of your animal in jeopardy. And, you know, your animal becomes a part of your family after a while. And if anything happens to that animal, it's just as if it happened to one of your own children. That's how it is. Or at least that's how it should be. You know, you do have these scumbags like this we had here in Dallas recently who, you know, do things like set dogs on fire and try to choke them and try to hang them and torture them and all this stuff. You know, for what reason? I don't know. If there's a reason behind it, if you could show me a legitimate reason that made sense, hey, maybe I would say, okay, you know, different strokes for different folks. Okay. But that kind of senseless thing like that where there's no cause or reason behind it. You know, I'll say this. If there's anything to what these elite cocksuckers believe about, you know, the divine right to rule and, you know, they deserve to rule over us because they are inferior to us because of their genetic stock and their inbreeding and their bloodlines, and we are inferior goy, you know, as they call us, and all this stuff. If that is true as they say it is, then they should respect all of us who aren't as high and holy and mighty, because that's the law of the universe. You know, we're supposed to respect all things no matter what level of existence and incarnation they are on. And we exist in a realm where everything around us is some form of energy that is currently inhabiting whatever current makeup it is for a reason. Every single living thing is currently inhabiting its current existence for a reason. And that's why we are supposed to respect plants. That's why we're supposed to respect animals and the earth. It's not even supposed to be something you're even supposed to be taught, just something that you're supposed to inherently know. And when we don't do that, well, not only are we not doing what is right, we're also violating one of the main laws of the universe, which is to respect all things of all incarnations, regardless of the lower vibratory life forms to the highest vibratory life forms. And so because we know that they are not following that law of the universe and they are not respecting things of a lower incarnation of themselves, if it is true what they believe, then we know beyond any shadow of a doubt, folks, that these motherfuckers will fail. And how do we know that? Because they are not acting in accordance with the laws of the universe that are set in stone and unchangeable. They are not respecting life other than their own, even though they have great power to make sure that there is no suffering whatsoever. There is no reason for any suffering on this planet at all. It's all being imposed by people who have the power for there not to be suffering. And no matter how many bug-out bunkers and whatever else they have, in the end, no matter what happens, they're all gonna fucking die too. But not if they can help it. Not if they can get this transhumanist stuff and merge with machines soon enough. That's what they want to do. They're trying not to, goddammit. The paranoid recluse, let me guess, this guy, they probably had conspiracy books and he probably frequented, conspiracy websites. I haven't read this article, honest to God, so I don't know. I'm just speculating here. some paranoid recluse went on a shooting spree. What do you think? It's going to be some truther or something, isn't it? The paranoid recluse who shot dead a sheriff's deputy and a locksmith had with him sinister tools to carry out the grim shootings, including a gas mask, high-powered assault rifle, and was found wearing a ballistic vest. That, along with several other weapons, were found with the yet unidentified remains of the person suspected of killing the two men. The shooting led to a day-long standoff that ended Thursday night when the 4-unit apartment building caught fire. The suspect in the killing of a sheriff's deputy and a locksmith during an eviction had a gas mask and was armed with several weapons, including a high-powered assault rifle and other weapons, when his body was found in the burnt ruins of an apartment building, police reported Saturday. Modesto Police spokesman Sergeant Brian Finland said that authorities received a badly burned body that has not been positively identified, but they said that the male is the suspect in the slayings. The weapons were found close to the suspect's body, along with the police-style radios. The former security guard, whose apartment was the scene of the shootings, was a financially troubled, paranoid recluse who feared that his apartment would be taken away from him, according to those who knew him. He, again, they've called him a paranoid recluse 3 times here. And I mean, it's like, why are you trying to reinforce that? Who took money and food from them and lived in an apartment like a survivalist without hot water or electricity. There it is, survivalist. I'm trying to get to the part where it talks about what websites he was visiting. I know they got that information. No, I don't see anything, but yeah. Of course, it's always some, paranoid recluse who was worried about the government, went on a shooting rampage. New question mark over global warming. Scientists discover glaciers in Asian mountain range are actually getting bigger. Photos taken by a French satellite show glaciers in a mountain range west of the Himalayas have grown during the last decade. The growing glaciers were found in the Karakoram Range, which spans the borders between Pakistan, India, and China, and is home to the world's second highest peak, K2. The startling find has baffled scientists and comes at a time when glaciers in other parts of the region and across the world are shrinking. French scientists from the National Center of Scientific Research and from the University of Grenoble were forced to rely on satellite images to study the region because much of the Karakoram Range is inaccessible. The researchers are unsure why the region bucks the global trend, but they know from other studies in other parts of the world that in the very cold regions, like the Karakoram Range, climate change can cause extra precipitation, which then freezes and adds to landmass. Yes, I forgot about that. That wonderful theory of global warming. This is, well, whenever you're having global warming, you just actually, your planet gets colder. Yeah, it's the funny damnedest thing I ever seen in my life. I don't know why they called that damned old global warming, but, well, that's just part of it. We're going through a global warming, and when global warming happens, it gets cold. That's all it is to it. Why is that so hard for y'all to figure out? So, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, it's getting colder. That's because of global warming. I forgot. Yes, polar ice caps and stuff are actually getting bigger, but that's because it's getting hotter. All right, okay. Glad we got that. Glad you cleared that up for us. All right, I think we've about gotten through all of our news tonight. It wasn't a whole lot. Give me just a second here to bring up what we're going to be getting back into reading tonight. Oh, come on. Don't you love technology? Let me get back. There we go. All right, so last time where we left off in our book, we were reading about the various entities, various types of entities in the astral plane. So let's continue here with number 8, the vampire and the werewolf. There remain 2 even more awful but happily very rare possibilities to be mentioned before this part of our subject is completed. And though they differ widely in many ways, we may yet perhaps group them together since they have in common the qualities of unearthly horror and of extreme rarity, the latter arising from the fact that they are really relics of earlier races. We of the 5th root race ought to have evolved beyond the possibility of meeting such a ghastly fate as indicated by either of the 2 headings of this subsection. And we have so nearly done it that these creatures are commonly regarded as mere medieval fables. Yet there are examples to be found occasionally, even now, though chiefly in countries where there is a considerable strain of 4th race blood, such as Russia or Hungary. The popular legends about them are probably often considerably exaggerated, but there is nevertheless a terribly serious substratum of truth beneath the eerie stories which pass from mouth to mouth among the peasantry of Central Europe. The general characteristics of such tales are too well known to need more than a passing reference. A fairly typical specimen of the vampire story, though it does not profess to be more than the merest fiction, is Sheridan Le Fanu's Carmilla. While a very remarkable account of an unusual form of this creature is to be found in Isis Unveiled, Volume 1, by Madame Blavatsky, of course, all readers of theosophical literature are familiar with the idea that it is possible for a man to live a life so absolutely degraded and selfish, so utterly wicked and brutal, that the whole of his lower manas may become entirely enmeshed in kama, and finally separated from its spiritual source in the higher ego. Some students even seem to think that such an occurrence is quite a common one, and that we may meet scores of such soulless men, as they have been called, in the street every day of our lives. Oh, I've seen some of them. Yeah, they absolutely have no soul. It's just completely been sucked out of them. Yeah. You know, oh my God. They just need somebody to come along and just put a bullet right in their fucking brain. To attain the appalling preeminence in evil, which thus involves the entire loss of personality and the weakening of the developing individuality behind a man, must stifle every gleam of unselfishness or spirituality, and must have absolutely no redeeming whatsoever. Not whole. We shall realize that the abandoned personalities must always be a very small minority. Still comparatively few, though, they do exist. From their that the still rare vampire is drawn. The lost entity would very soon after death find himself unable to stay in Kamaloka and would be irresistibly drawn in full consciousness into his own place. The 8th sphere there slowly to disintegrate after experiences best left undescribed. If, however, he perishes by suicide or sudden death, he may, under certain circumstances, especially if he knows something of black magic, hold himself back from that awful fate by a death in life scarcely less awful: the ghastly existence of a vampire. Since the 8th sphere cannot claim him until after the death of the body, he preserves it in a kind of cataleptic trance by the horrible expedient of the transfusion into it of blood drawn from other human beings by his self-materialized Kamarupa, and thus postpones his final destiny by the commission of wholesale murder. As popular superstition again quite rightly supposes, the easiest and most effectual remedy in such a case is to exhume and burn the body, thus depriving the creature of his point dea pupi. And when the grave is opened, the body usually appears quite fresh and healthy, and the coffin is not infrequently filled with blood. Of course, In countries where cremation is the custom, vampirism of this sort is impossible. The werewolf, though equally horrible, is the product of a somewhat different karma, and indeed ought to perhaps have found a place under the first instead of the second division of the human inhabitants of the Kamaloka. Since it is always during a man's lifetime that he first manifests under this form, it invariably implies some knowledge of magical arts, sufficient at any rate to be able to project the astral body. When a perfectly cruel and brutal man does this, there are certain circumstances under which the body may be seized upon by other astral entities and materialized, not into the human form, but into that of some kind of wild animal, usually the wolf. And in that condition, it will range the surrounding country, killing other animals and even human beings, thus satisfying not only its own craving for blood, but that of the fiends who drive it on. And in this case, as so often with the ordinary astral body, any wound inflicted upon the animal materialization will be reproduced upon the human physical body by the extraordinary phenomenon of repercussion. Though after the death of that physical body, the Kamarupa, which will probably continue to appear in the same form, will be less vulnerable. It will then, however, he also less dangerous, whatever that means, is bad English. I guess it means he'll be less dangerous. And unless it can find a suitable medium, it will be unable to materialize fully. It has been the fashion of this century to scoff at what are called the foolish superstitions of the ignorant peasantry. But as in the above cases, so in many others, the occult student finds on careful examination that obscure, forgotten truths of nature lie behind what at first sight appears as mere nonsense. Yeah, kind of like what I always say about how they fictionalize the truth, so the truth seems like fiction. So what appears at first to be mere nonsense, he learns to be cautious in rejecting, as well as cautious in accepting. Yeah, that's a big thing to learn. You got to learn to do in everything in life, from the spirit plane to the material plane. Yeah, you have to learn to be cautious, but at the same time, you can't be too cautious, and then you won't ever experience anything. So you have to be cautious and accepting, and know when to be, more of the one and less of the other. Intending explorers of the astral plane need have little fear of encountering the very unpleasant creature described under this heading. For as before stated, as are even now extremely rare, and as time goes on, their number will happily steadily diminish. In any case, their manifestations are usually restricted to the immediate neighborhood of their physical bodies, as might be supposed from their extremely material nature. Number 9, the black magician or his pupil. This person corresponds at the other extremity of the scale to our second class of departed entities. The Chela awaiting reincarnation, but in this case, instead of obtaining permission to adopt an unusual method of progress, the man is defying the natural process of evolution by maintaining himself in Kamaloka by magical arts, sometimes of the most horrible nature. It would be easy to make various subdivisions of this class according to their objects, their methods, and the possible duration of their existence on this plane. But as they are by no means fascinating objects of study, and all that an occult student wishes to know about them is how to avoid them, it will probably be more interesting to pass on to the examination of another part of our subject. It may, however, be just mentioned that every such human entity which prolongs its life thus on the astral plane beyond its natural limit invariably does so at the expense of others and by the absorption of their life in some form or another. Number 2, non-human. Though it might have been thought fairly obvious, even to the most casual glance, that many of the terrestrial arrangements of nature which affect us most nearly have not been designed exclusively with a view to our comfort or even our ultimate advantage. It was yet probably unavoidable that the human race, at least in its childhood, should examine that this world and everything it contains existed solely for its own use and benefit. Undoubtedly, we ought by this time to have grown out of that infantile delusion and realized our proper position and duties that attach to it. That most of us have not yet done so is shown in a dozen ways in our daily life, notably by the atrocious cruelty habitually displayed toward the animal kingdom under the name of sport and by many who probably consider themselves highly civilized people. Of course, the veriest tyro in the holy science of occultism knows that all life is sacred, and that without universal compassion there is no true progress. But it is only as he advances in his studies that he discovers how manifold evolution is, and how comparatively small a place humanity really fills in the economy of nature. It becomes clear to him that just as earth, air, and water support myriads of forms of life which, through the invisible to the ordinary eye, are revealed to us by the microscope, so the higher planes connected with our earth have an equally dense population whose existence we are ordinarily completely unconscious of. As his knowledge increases, he becomes more and more certain that in one way or another, the utmost use is being made of every possibility of evolution, and that wherever it seems to us that in nature, force, or opportunity is being wasted or neglected, it is not the scheme of the universe that is in fault, but our ignorance of its method and intention. Hear to that. For the purposes of our present consideration of the non-human inhabitants of the astral plane, it will be best to leave out of consideration those very early forms of the universal life which are evolving in a manner of which we have little comprehension. Through the successive encasement of atoms, molecules, and cells, for if we commence at the lowest of what are usually called the elemental kingdoms, we shall even then have to group together under this general heading an enormous number of inhabitants of the astral plane upon whom it will be possible to touch only very slightly, as anything like a detailed account of them would swell this manual to the dimensions of an encyclopedia. The most convenient method of arranging the non-human entities will perhaps be in 4 classes, it being understood that in this case the class is not, as previously, a comparatively small subdivision, but usually a great kingdom of nature, at least as large and varied as, say, the animal or vegetable kingdom. Some of these rank considerably below humanity, some are our equals, and others again rise far above us in goodness and power. Some belong to our scheme of evolution, that is to say, they either have been or will be men like ourselves. Others are evolving on entirely distinct lines of their own. Before proceeding to consider them, it is necessary, in order to avoid the charge of incompleteness, to mention that in this branch of the subject, 2 reservations have been made. First, no reference is made to the occasional appearances of very high adepts from other planets of the solar system, and of even more august visitors from a still greater distance. Still, such matters cannot fitly be described in an essay for general reading. So he's talking about right there specifically, beings that come from other places. Non-humans. Since such matters cannot fitly be described in an essay for general reading, and besides it is practically inconceivable, though of course theoretically possible, that such glorified beings should ever need to manifest themselves on a plane so low as the astral, if for any reason they should wish to do so, the body appropriate to the plane would be temporarily created out of astral matter belonging to this planet, just as in the case of the Nirmakaya. Secondly, quite outside of and entirely unconnected with the 4 classes into which we are dividing this section, there are 2 other great evolutions which at present share the use of this planet with humanity. But about them it is forbidden to give any particulars at this stage of the proceedings, as it is not apparently intended under ordinary circumstances either that they should be conscious of man's existence or man of theirs. If we ever do come into contact with them, it will most probably be on the purely physical plane. For in any case, their connection with our astral plane is of the slightest, since the only possibility of their appearance there depends upon an extremely improbable accident in an act of ceremonial magic, which fortunately only a few of the most advanced sorcerers know how to perform. This is good shit. Nevertheless, that impossible accident has happened at least once and may happen again, but for the prohibition above mentioned, it would have been necessary to include them in our list. Number 1, the elemental essence belonging to our own evolution. Just as the name elementary has been given indiscriminately by various writers to any or all of man's possible post-mortem conditions, so this word elemental has been used at different times to mean any or all non-human spirits, from the most godlike of the devas down through every variety of nature spirit, to the formless essence which pervades the kingdoms lying beyond the mineral, until after reading several books, the student becomes absolutely bewildered by the contradictory statements made on the subject. For the purposes of this treatise, it will perhaps simplify matters to restrict its meaning to the last mentioned class only, and use it to denote the three great kingdoms which precede the mineral in the order of our evolution. It may be remembered that in one of the earlier letters from an adept teacher, these elemental kingdoms are referred to, and the statement is made that the first and second cannot readily be comprehended except by an initiate. Fortunately, this, the most incomprehensible part of the vast subject, does not come within the province of this manual, as those first and second elemental kingdoms exist and function respectively upon the Arupa and Rupa levels of the Devacanic plane. We have consequently to deal with, for the moment, only with kingdom number 3, the one next before the mineral, though even that will be found quite insufficiently complicated, as will be understood when it is stated that it contains just over 2,400 perfectly distinct varieties of elemental essence, each of which the pupil who wishes to attain perfect control of the astral forces must learn not only to distinguish instantly at sight, but to deal with in its own special method and no other. Of course, phenomena of various sorts may be, and constantly are, produced by those who are able to wield only one or two of these forces. But the adept prefers to take the additional trouble requisite to understand all of them thoroughly, and uses in every case precisely the most appropriate force or combination of forces, so that his object may be obtained with scientific accuracy and with the least possible expenditure of energy. To speak, as we so often do, of an elemental in connection with the group we are now considering is somewhat misleading. For strictly speaking, there is no such thing. What we find is a vast store of elemental essence, wonderfully sensitive to the most fleeting human thought, responding with inconceivable delicacy in the infinitesimal fraction of a second to a vibration set up in it even by an entirely unconscious exercise of human will or desire. But the moment that by the influence of such thought or exercise of will it is molded into a living force, it is something that may correctly be described as an elemental. It at once ceases to belong to the category we are discussing. It becomes a member of the artificial class. Even then, its separate existence is usually of the most evanescent character. And as soon as its impulse has worked itself out, it sinks back into the undifferentiated mass of that particular subdivision of elemental essence from which it came. It would be tedious to attempt to catalog these subdivisions, and indeed, even if a list of them were made, it would be unintelligible except to the practical student who can call upon them before him and compare them. Some idea of the leading lines of classification can, however, be grasped without much trouble, and may prove of interest. First comes the broad division, which has given the elementals their name. The classification according to the kind of matter which they inhabit. Here, as usual, the septenary character of our evolution shows itself. For there are 7 such chief groups, related respectively to the 7 states of physical matter, to earth, water, air, and fire. Or to translate from medieval symbolism to modern accuracy of expression, to the solid, liquid, gaseous, and etheric conditions. So we're going to stop right there. Otherwise, I'll just keep going all night on that. Wow. Good shit. Getting into more of the what's inhabiting this astral plane there. Man, this is good stuff. Very interesting there. And again, getting into that theosophy, seeing what these guys are into, you know. That's the most interesting thing. TheGlobalReality.com is my website. That's TheGlobalReality.com. Please hit up our shipping banner. Please help us meet our goal and get the bills paid. We got to pay the stream bill, so help out and help if you can. The shipping bid didn't move much last week, but that's okay. Help us out. And let's get some support in here this week so we can continue to get our work done. And we are staying on schedule with a new film, and I'm very excited about that, so I need to get back to work on that right now, folks. My name is Josh Reeves. I love each and every one of you. We'll see you tomorrow for the broadcast. You guys have yourselves a great one. Take care.